What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to this episode of Home Built Workshop. Today I'm going to show you how I made several different sets of guitar repair spool clamps and a handy little holder to keep everything organized. So stay tuned, check it out. So spool clamps are a pretty popular style of clamp used in guitar repair. Well, I have got a repair coming up that I believe I'm going to need some spool clamps. Currently, I don't own any spool clamps, so let's make some. Let's get this party started. To build these off, I've scavenged through some of my scrap pieces. This is a scrap of mahogany. I'm going to use that for these clamps. It's going to work just perfect. To cut these circles out, I'm going to use a hole saw. Now this hole saw is 1 inch and 3/16. This should give me a roughly 1 inch diameter spool clamp, and the other one that I found is 1.5 inches. This should give me somewhere around 1.25 inches size. I'm not sure which size I'm going to prefer, but I'm going to make a few of each and we'll see which one I like better.
Starting with the smaller of the two hole saws, I'm going to drill just deep enough so that the pilot bit comes through the bottom. I'm not going to drill all the way through because I'm trying to avoid as much chip out as I can. Once I have all the pieces drilled on one side, I'll flip it over, and using the pilot hole to align everything, I'll drill through the back side, which will cut the piece loose. This process worked really good. If you don't have to cut too deep on your second pass, it's really easy to remove. I'll use this same size to make these out of this sheet of HDPE plastic. I'm not quite sure how this is going to work. It's kind of an experiment. It ended up really plugging up the drill bit. I had to stop several times and clean off all the shavings. But I just took my time, cleaned off the bit as necessary, and I managed to get them cut. Now I can switch to the larger size and cut some of the larger wooden ones. I'm using the same process for this, drilling through one side until the pilot bit comes through the bottom, then turning the piece over and drilling it from the other side, which separates the disc.
I already think I like this size better. I won't know for sure till I try them both, but I like the look of this better. Now with the spools cut out, I need to sand these smooth. There's a couple of little ridges on here where the hole saw met from both sides, so I need to get that sanded smooth. To do that, I'm going to take a long bolt and we're going to thread all of these things onto that bolt, tighten it down, and chuck it up in the drill press.
I tried using my orbital sander while the drill press was running, but it actually didn't seem to do as much as just using a piece of sandpaper.
If you wrap that with sandpaper, it also works good for a homemade sanding drum.
The orbital sander seemed to work a little bit better on the plastic, but still I finished it up using a regular piece of sandpaper.
So now with these guys all sanded, before I attach the cork, I want to put an indent in one side of these to accept the square portion of a carriage bolt. I'm going to hold these together using a carriage bolt, and until I have an indent, the head will not fully seat down in there. So we're going to seat that head in all of them before we move on. So you can see that now that I have a square indent where the carriage head will fit in there just fine. Now this isn't necessary on both sides, but if I ever have to take these apart for any reason, I don't want to have to worry about finding the right one to make up a pair. So now I can grab either one, and now we will apply cork to the other side. So here is a little tip for you. This is the cork that I was going to use. This was on the shelf like this, already wrapped up. I'm guessing it was probably a return. It doesn't look like anything has been cut off of it. So 50% off just because I asked. Score! Don't be afraid to ask for a discount on something like this. What's the worst they're gonna say? No? So what? But you might just score a nice 50% discount.
This stuff is really easy to work with. It's got a contact paper backing, so I can just cut it with scissors down to the size that I need. Then I'll use a steel punch and punch a hole in the center for the bolt to pass through. The contact paper adhesive should be more than enough to hold this cork to the plastic clamps. For the wooden clamps, I feel as though I need a little bit more holding power, so I'm going to use a little bit of wood glue first, and then I'll stick on the cork. Now I'll clamp them all together on a bolt.
There we go. Just clamp them together this way, let them dry. Now I just need to trim that cork so it's nice and flush. To do that, I'm going to use a nice sharp X-Acto knife and trim right up against the spool. See if I can do this without slicing myself. Now I'm going to load those guys back up on these bolts so that I can put them in the drill press and sand the cork nice and smooth again. So now with the sanding complete, we can go ahead and put these together. I have got some 6-inch carriage bolts that I'm going to use. We'll just insert that. Now I'm going to take a little piece of shrink wrap tubing. I'm going to slip it over this bolt. Sometimes the threaded portion of the bolt could come in contact with the guitar, and we don't want that because that could scratch it really easy. So just by putting this little piece of tubing on there, it's going to make it a little easier and safer on the guitar's finish. Now I could shrink this down, but I'm not exactly sure of the size that I'm going to want it to be. So for now, I'm going to leave it just like that. It's still going to protect the finish just like I want it to do. I just realized that I didn't make any sort of indent in here for the square portion of the carriage bolt. Now I know I can't just crush the bolt into the nylon, so we will head over to the drill press and drill just a little recess on this side that the square portion can fit into. Now my spool clamps are assembled, but they're kind of hard to keep track of because they want to roll all over the place. So we're going to make a really quick and simple holder to hold all these guys in place.
I cut down a scrap of white oak. I'm just going to mark out some equally spaced points where I can drill some recesses with a Forstner bit. This will hold all the clamps in place. And now using a smaller drill bit, I'll align it with the center point left from the Forstner bit and drill all the way through the piece. I'll open up that center hole on the bandsaw to make a slot where the clamp can slip into. Lastly, I'll just drill a couple of quick mounting holes right through one of the slots.
I'm just going to smooth up these corners a little bit. Just a piece of 220 sandpaper, just so it's not really sharp and removes all the splinters. So there it is. A couple of simple sets of spool clamps, really handy to have and really simple to make too. Now if you're wondering why I made the different styles, really I just wanted to experiment, try a couple of different things, see what works the best. I have a feeling that I'm going to be going back and making some more of this size right here, and that's why I made the slots in the holder to fit all of this larger size. Thanks a lot for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to check the video description for a bunch of helpful links. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, ring the bell so you get the notifications. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time. I'm going to show you how I made a... Well, that's not going to work so good now, is it? Who wants to just see a mouth?